This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. We're talking right now with Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net at the end of this trading day. And Robin, what did we see in the grains coming back from that holiday weekend?
Well, coming back from the weekend sure didn't put any support under the corn market or the wheat market. Beans were trying to hold a little bit better, but traders had an extra time or time to think about things, and some of the weather situations and what in Brazil, and it was not very friendly as far as corn was concerned or wheat. Now, export inspections initially this morning, we did see a decrease in all categories. Corn was at 16 million bushels, down 7.7 million from a week ago. Soybeans, 53 million bushels, down 6.9 million bushels from last week, and wheat at 10.2 million bushels, down 3.3 million bushels from last week. So that didn't set the stage very well as we moved into the day trade. Now, Brazil is supposed to be seeing some rains over the next 2 weeks, but they're saying basically it might be sufficient to maintain the crop, but not enough to really increase development, sufficient for crop development. So kind of like in a holding pattern. Now, that could vary back and forth depending. We know how some of the weather forecasts are and can be. So I think that kept a little bit of pressure on the market from really seeing some strength based on what we've been seeing as far as weather is concerned. Now, Argentina, on the other hand, is going to see some good rain coverage or favorable rains, and I think that's what put more pressure on the corn market today. Now, Saffras and Mercado, they lowered their bean production forecast to 161.38 million metric tons, and that was down from their previous estimate of 163.25 million metric tons. And there was another analyst firm in Brazil that projected production at 160.1. So that's going to keep a little bit of support in that market. It's going to be iffy as we start moving through here a little bit more, but so that's going to be determining a lot of the volatility that we see in the market now. The Brazilian soybeans are about 75% planted right now versus 88% last year. Again, maybe that's not too much of a big issue at this point in time. However, it is getting later in there, and there's been some issues before of them canceling some of their corn seed for the second crop corn, or maybe looking at planting, waiting a little bit later to plant soybeans for their second crop. So a lot of things up in the air there. A lot of things can turn around fairly quickly. We know how soybeans grow, and they can recover fairly nicely, and sometimes they produce better when they see a period of dry weather.
All right, so moving over to the livestock side of things then, Robin, how are we looking for those cattle and hogs?
Well, we thought maybe the washout on Friday was just overdone to the downside because that really took a big hit, but apparently not. We came in today, opened a little stronger, maybe a little bit of short covering, maybe a little bit of bottom picking. And as the day progressed, we started seeing more pressure on that market. They broke through technical support on Friday and continued on through that technical support or through that support or continued technical selling today. Feeder cattle really taking a large hit down over $6. The liquidation continues. Cash was lower last week, which wasn't that bad. Southern cattle traded live cattle $2 lower, northern dressed cattle $1 lower. So at 177 lives and 280 dressed, that wasn't a big issue. That would not have caused the market to fall like it did. And then today, box beef at midday, choice was up 35 cents at 298.38, and select up $3.33 at 279.09. Those in itself is not an issue. It just seems like the technical selling, the fund liquidation has gripped this market, and we have Katie bar the door selling, and this is going to be very difficult to recover from. March and later, feeder cattle futures contracts continue to make new contract lows. It's just a brutal situation in the cattle market right now at this point. Now, hogs, they've been falling somewhat, I would say, in sympathy with the cattle market. Now, we did see lower cash and lower cutouts on Friday, but today, at the midday anyway, the National Direct Report shows an increase in cash of 283 with a weighted average of 60.92. Now, packers seem to be maybe stepping up early this in the week in order to get hogs procured for the week after the disruption of the holiday last week on slaughter. Now, cutouts at the midday report showed a jump of $5.46. There was a large jump in bellies of $17.76 and a large jump in picnics of $11.40. Now, I don't think that's going to hold into the end of the day, but it sure shows a different dynamic than we saw on Friday. But even with that, at the midday report, it's not supporting the hog market. The uncertainty of cash and the uncertainty of cutouts that we have been seeing in the lower cash and cutouts has really kept a negative pressure on this market that I don't think is going to go away anytime soon either. And we're seeing new contract lows in the hog contracts anywhere out from February on out.
All right. Well, Robin, if folks want to look at what some of their options are for the markets, especially looking at that 2024 season, what's the best way for them to get in touch with agmarket.net?
Well, they can call me directly if they'd like, and my number is 877-256-3253, or you can go to our website, agmarket.net. The 844 number is listed there, and anybody will pick up the phone if they decide to call in.
All right. Well, Robin, thanks so much for the insight, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
All right. It's always a pleasure, and thank you.
That again was Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. Let's go ahead and take a look at the IARN market window and see how those numbers closed. December corn was down 7 3/4 at 4.55 1/2. Soybeans down a penny, 13.29 3/4. Soy meal up $1.30 at 4.5870. Soy oil up 38 cents at 51.91. Chicago wheat down 14 1/2 at 5.34 1/4. Kansas wheat down 12 at 5.90 even. Minneapolis wheat was down 12 1/4. That was at 6.84 1/2, and oats down 7 3/4 at 3.65 1/4. December live cattle down $1.47 at 168.77. Feeders down $6.52 at 212.80. Lean hogs up 30 cents at 67.87. Pork cutouts down 20 cents at 79.50. Class 3 milk up 3 cents at 16.38. And that's been a check of the market recap. We're going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff, reminding you that the Ponds of Potential podcast, episode 2, is now available at iowaagnet.com. When we come back, I'll talk with Meg McCollister from the Environmental Protection Agency. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AMPM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Well, the Environmental Protection Agency hasn't always had the best of relations with the agriculture industry, but it hasn't always been bad either. We've had concerns with things about WOTUS and where things are with E15. The EPA is much more than regulation. They're also working to help improve infrastructure, especially when it comes to water in rural communities, and also helping farmers find ways to better care for the soil and water. We talked with Meg McCollister about how those goals are reached. She's with the Environmental Protection Agency. All right, so we talked a lot before with Rod about a lot of the rules, a lot of the things that are concerning agriculture, but obviously it comes down to communicating with agriculture, being out there and engaging with them, and that's what we're kind of talking about today. What kind of things is EPA doing to help make that communication, kind of bridge that gap of misunderstanding, maybe sometimes much emotion out there? How are you guys bridging that gap to really engage?
Sure. So first, the one thing to understand is EPA Region 7 is 4 states, so Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, and we have 10 EPA regions. One of the first things I would point out is that each region has an ag advisor. So we have Doug Jones in Region 7 as our ag advisor, and that's the first and most important thing, is to make sure that we have someone dedicated to maintaining those relationships, building those relationships to make sure that ag has a seat at the table. We've done a lot in the last year to engage with ag. Just last week, I was in Iowa. We had the Anaerobic Digestion on the Farm conference that we co-hosted with Iowa State University and the University of Iowa, as well as a bunch of leaders from around the region to talk about anaerobic digestion, and those were really incredible conversations. We've been to the Iowa State Fair this past year, did a lot of conversations with ag leaders, as well as our partners with USDA. Speaking of USDA, we've really been leaning into that partnership to work together to make sure that we're identifying what tools that we have collectively to support rural communities and farmers. So a lot of just making sure that we're having conversations, making sure that we're providing those opportunities in big event settings, but also visiting farms, visiting communities to make sure that we're keeping those channels of communication open.
And what kind of things do you hear from the farmers when you guys are out there? I mean, what kind of things are they talking to you about?
Sure, so a lot of it is what funding do we have available, and also we have a lot of populations that are maybe leaving the rural areas, so talking about rural prosperity and also aging infrastructure. One of the things that we've been investing in through the bipartisan infrastructure law is money going into the state revolving funds. And it's been about $250 million, so a lot of money that we've invested into rural communities, and that goes into aging infrastructure, particularly with water. So nearly half of our communities in Region 7 with a public water utility have 425 ratepayers or less. And as people leave the rural communities, that means that you have fewer people paying those utilities, and so the costs go up. So that's one of the things that has been a concern for people.
And those rural communities are obviously needing to upgrade that infrastructure, like you're saying. Mm-hmm. So how can we partner? For example, I come from a small town in Minnesota where we just upgraded the whole water infrastructure. So it was a complete overhaul of the system to bring it up to date. What kind of things are done to help get that off the ground? How is EPA involved with USDA to help get that done?
Yeah, so it's not just USDA, but also our state partners. Mm-hmm. So we really work with our state partners when we talk about the money that's being invested into the state revolving funds. Those go into, Iowa DNR, Department of Natural Resources, for example, making sure that we are working with our state partners to identify those communities, get the money into the state revolving fund, and then they're able to also invest in those communities to help with the aging infrastructure. It's really important to have those partnerships as well.
And you're talking about being up there last week, we're talking about bioreactors and talking about all the different ways that farmers are starting to adopt more and more practices mm-hmm. to be better stewards of the water and the land. They've always tried to be, because if you have bad water and bad land, you can't keep that farm going into the next generation. So it's always been a matter of what can we do better, where can we make improvements? What kind of things are you seeing being adopted by farmers, and how are they reacting to some of these adoptions?
Well, one of the things I would point out is that farmers are actually really true innovators. And one thing that we learned in our conversations last week when we were talking about anaerobic digestion on the farm, a big part of the conversation is climate. And farmers and ranchers really, and to a huge extent, are on the front lines when it comes to climate. And so just like you said, they're dealing with a lot of these things in real time, and we're learning so much from them. But they are true innovators. So one of the things that's important is for us to continue to hear what they're facing, continue to hear what solutions they're coming up with so that we can work together, whether it's with funding that we have available or tools that we can help identify with USDA or with our state partners to work together with ag to make sure that we all have common sense and climate smart solutions moving forward.
So if farmers are trying to get these discussions going, or maybe they're looking at what things they can do to get going, where do they start? I mean, what can EPA do to help them get that ball rolling?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is to reach out to the regional ag advisor. So Doug Jones, again, is our ag advisor here in Region 7. He's a great person to reach out to. Each region, each of the 10 regions has their own ag advisor. So if you're not in Region 7, but you're in a different region, in Region 5, for example, sounds like where you're from, you'd want to reach out to that ag advisor because they'll be the one that can help start that conversation, figure out what partner resources they have available in the region. And then, of course, we have our headquarters colleagues who continue to be out here to engage in those conversations as well.
All right, well, Meg, we thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
That again was Meg McCollister of the EPA. Let's go ahead and take a look at that ag weather outlook. Well, a lot cooler start to the day after we saw quite a bit of the white stuff on the ground. We got maybe about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch here in Des Moines. Not too bad, but enough to let you know that winter is right around the corner. Now, we are going to see some cooler temperatures even yet tonight and into tomorrow. It's going to be about the same tomorrow as it is today, but let's go ahead and take a look at what the National Weather Service has for those numbers for the next 24 hours. Well, we're definitely going to see some more seasonal temperatures, though it is going to be pretty clear. Today, mainly sunny skies is what we saw. Colder temperatures, highs were anywhere from the mid-20s to the upper 30s. Tonight, clear and cold. We will see upper single digits to the mid-teens for overnight lows. And tomorrow, the skies will remain mostly sunny, but still hanging around the same temperature, again, mid-20s to just about 40 degrees. Taking a look at the affiliate weather map for you for tomorrow. Tomorrow, Cherokee looking for sunny skies in 36. Shenandoah sunny in 39. Des Moines and Albia both sunny in 33. Waterloo sunny 28. Clinton, the cold spot, sunny skies and 26 degrees. For more detailed forecasts in your area, tune to your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And that's been the Ag Weather Outlook. With that, we're at the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. Also follow us on Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and on our YouTube channel. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you can be notified whenever we put out a new video product. Also, don't forget about our market podcast, free of charge market analysis right to your mobile device through Google, Amazon, Apple, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.